Boys, okay, here's a little update on Spear. I feel like this is really important for me to get out to you guys. Generally, I space out my guide / reviews, but I felt like I needed to get this video out to you guys as soon as possible because Spear's about to drop, and a lot of you guys are going to be investing a lot of that hard-earned Lucent and spending a lot of time learning the weapon and how it works, right? So I just want to preface this video by saying I've been streaming for like anywhere from 12 to 18 hours consecutive days since this is dropped in KR. I put a lot of hours into this, and by no means is all of this information I'm about to give you objectively true. We are still testing things out. There are plenty of areas that I haven't fully tested yet, so just please take this with a grain of salt. But I do want to kind of deliver you the general consensus of not only how I feel, but how a lot of the Korean players feel. But not only the Korean players, but a lot of the top, at the very least, a few of the top Korean players. And the general sentiment is pretty consistent amongst everyone. So in this video, I'm going to be kind of giving you guys an idea or an introduction as to how the Spear is actually played. I'm going to be sharing that general consensus and a couple of classes or mainstream classes that I've tested and kind of give you an idea as to how those play. Share some pros and cons. So let's begin. I will try to keep this as short as possible, but no guarantees. So looking at this kit right here, there are a few key skills that you have to understand. Okay. Flaming Arc right here, which is otherwise known as Culling Arc, so the arc skill. This is your bread and butter. This is essentially what sets up everything. Your big dick damage comes in with Spear, there are two versions of damage. I actually explained this in my previous video. You have the burst build, and then you have the Inferno build, the Ignite build. The burst build is not doing super great, okay? And to quickly explain as to why, with Culling Arc right here, this ability, when I use this on a target, you're going to see this buff right here, this burst stack. If I use this skill along with Storm Blitz will give me one stack of that. This will give me anywhere from 1 to 4, depending on how many crits I get. I think it can actually give me 5 as well, but it depends on how many times you crit. So the burst build is pretty much designed around maintaining 5 stacks of burst on your target. So if I go to my hard-hitting skill, which is Explosive Fury, Vicious Fury, okay? This right here, when I turn into Brutal Fury, I can use it 3 additional times as long as I have 5 burst stacks on the target, right? So I use this. I've got the stacks. I've got to wait because I don't have... I should probably just pull this up. Okay, I got my burst stacks here, 5. Now I could use this 1, 2. I try to space it out slowly. Sorry, I'll use it consecutively. I can use it 3 consecutive times. Okay, I was just trying to space it out a little slower so that you can see it. It's easier to see. So boom here. So 5, 5, 5. You see how I essentially used it 3 consecutive times. The issue with this is that you need to be able to maintain the burst stacks. And the only way you can apply it is by this ability or by this ability. This ability only gives me 1 application, by the way. And there's one other ability that allows me to apply it, and that is Phoenix Barrage right here. This also, when I take just Cyclone Fury right here, this gives me an immediate 5 stack. So it's pretty much just this, my 1 skill and my 6 skill that allows me to maintain it, or stack it or maintain it. Again, the issue with this is that your damage is reliant on this. So if you miss or if the buff wears off, you will not be dealing a lot of damage. It's a problem. Not to mention this spec, which we've tested, I along with other players, the burst spec simply just doesn't do as much damage as the Ignite build. I think the Ignite build is way more fun. the Ignite build has way more AoE, covers larger area, and even on single target, the Ignite build, as of now, deals more damage. Okay? It deals more damage. So forget about the Ignite, the burst build, but I still wanted to explain that to you so that you guys have an idea as to why the burst build is not really good. It's really it's very important for you to understand that stack system with burst. Okay, so we're gonna go back to Flaming Arc here, and I'm gonna go to Explosive Fury. Now let's talk about the Ignite build. The Ignite build is similar in principle. So if I use this one ability here, you're gonna see I get a stack of Ignite. This is just a tick, right? And if I use all these other abilities, I'm just stacking this more and more. I'm stacking more and more. And when it goes to 10 stacks, it explodes, and I get a big AoE explosion, and it also gives, it also provides a nice little dot damage that ticks, right? There's that, and then there's also something called Ember Stacks. Okay, so this ability right here, this 5 ability, Explosive Fury, is the only skill that gives me Ember Stacks. Ember Stacks, okay? What are Ember Stacks? I use Ember here, and as you can see, I have 30 seconds until my 5 Ember Stacks expire. I can use a single cast of my Javelin Inferno per Ember Stack. So I've got the 5 Ember Stacks, and then with these Ember Stacks, within 12 meters base, I can just throw my Fire Spear at them. AoE, hits a lot, no cooldown. I'm gonna throw it 5 times. And then I can do that again once I get 5 more Ember Stacks. This is insanely fun, a fantastic system. Here's the problem. The problem is that if this ability misses, or you don't get all 5 off, like right there, I wasn't able to get all 5 off. I only have 2 Ember Stacks. That cooldown is a bitch, and your DPS just goes right down the drain. Yes, hit is incredibly important for Spear. This is the basic design of the class. The last key DPS skill is Phoenix Barrage right here. And this right here just stacks more Ignite, deals a bunch of damage, and also increases crit damage. Gives you buffs right here too. And it can be used at a relatively long range, mid-range here. And hits pretty hard. So generally speaking, you buff up, right? I don't have my other buff. You buff up, you can engage with this. You can stun because that ability synergizes off of stun. You stun here, you use that ability, and then you just go to town with this. You stack the Ember buffs, and then you go to town with your Javelin Spear, and you also have your one skill that also AoE cleaves, that also stacks Ignite stacks, and just deals damage, right? That is the damage rotation for Spear. Kind of low cooldown ability here. Builder, you get the Ember Stacks, also deals a lot of damage. You spend your Ember Stacks, deals the most damage, and this also deals a lot of damage and also gives you buffs as well as more stacks. Pretty cool system. But again, the issue with Spear is that it's reliant on the stacks, whether it's Burst or Ember. Ember is easier, but Ember is required in order to deal damage. So if you're missing it, if you're not landing it, your DPS is just crushed. It's crushed, okay? After that, Spear also provides a lot of utility in the form of control. Okay, you've got a couple of stuns, you got a couple of knockbacks, you have 2 gap closers, but this gap closer right here is supposed to be more of a damaging skill. It's pretty bad. It doesn't deal a lot of damage. It's like it can kind of potentially do a lot of damage under certain circumstances, but it's just, we've all just kind of agreed it's kind of garbage. The gap closer is nice. Also, Storm Blitz is like a single gap closer, but even this skill, it's not amazing because if you spec into it, you can get 2 applications, but you essentially can use it on one target and then you swap targets and go to a different target. Precision Dash is way better because from Greatsword, because it allows you to actually control your your movement. The movement with spear, you can't control the direction that you go in. In other words, you can't like just go into a random location to do it. You need a target and you need to be in range in order for it to go off, and it's just kind of bad. Also, this ability right here, kind of buggy. And the moment you cancel it, it goes on cooldown. Also really buggy. If you've played Greatsword before, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say the guillotine death blow sliding bug. It happens, and it's really bad. So this also is incredibly easy to dodge if it is a smaller scale, but I mean, large scale, it is an incredibly powerful skill. So all in all, when it comes to the overall damage, obviously the AoE damage for Spear is fantastic. However, the damage is reliant on being able to land certain abilities, otherwise your DPS is butchered. But it does do a lot of AoE damage, and it also does pretty decent single target damage. Like if you do have a CC on someone, you can one combo them, right? Other DPS characters. It deals damage. It can deal a good bit of damage. The original first impressions, the general consensus was like, oh, Spear doesn't really deal damage. No, especially if you're synergizing it with other weapons, it can absolutely deal damage. It just requires you to land the hits. When I was speaking with my Korean friends, and one of the players in this group, in my opinion, he's probably the best player that I've ever seen. He's the best Expo Dagger player that I've played with, or he's actually the best. He's actually rank 1 in the arena and in kills. He agrees with that sentiment. He shared that same sentiment, saying that the biggest downside to Spear right now is the lack of hit, because you do not have Vital Force, and the fact that all of your damage relies on stacking a debuff on the target. I'm just going to call it a debuff. The Ember and the Burst, it relies on stacking an application on the target in order to do damage. In the current Korean endgame, melee evasion is it's everywhere, and there's a lot of it. You cannot stack enough hit to catch up to a melee evasion Andy, compared to tier 1, where most of the damage Andys are rolling range and magic evasion, because it synergizes with the damage, right? Tier 1, different from Tier 2. Tier 1, the hit threshold is much lower, and it's not really meta to run melee evasion in large scale. Therefore, Spear, in my opinion, is going to perform way better in Tier 1 than it will in Tier 2. Tier 2, it has a serious hit problem. Serious hit problem. Please keep in mind, there are a lot of different builds that you can go for, right? In Tier 1, you can absolutely build for a lower hit build for large scale PvP. Simply target the people that are not running melee evasion. I talk about this all the time in my stream, and hopefully I eventually get around to uploading a video where I talk about hit versus evasion. But keep in mind, the endgame in KR is very different, so that's why a lot of Koreans are very disappointed in Spear. Or I shouldn't say very, I should say fairly disappointed in Spear. It's fun, but disappointing. I expect Spear to actually get buffed because of that Korean consensus. And I also do think there are some core issues with the skill kit, especially the burst skill kit. The fact that it's just, you have 5 seconds to maintain a 5-stack buff, and if you don't, your DPS is gone. Like, that's just, to me, that's just a terrible system. And even if you maintain it, the DPS is still worse than Inferno or Ignite. It doesn't make sense at all, right? So what else is there? The classes that I have tested, SNS Spear and Spear Dagger. I have gotten feedback on Expo Spear, which was tested by that #1 Expo player, and I have also tested Greatsword Spear. A lot of you guys are asking, how are these classes synergized? Okay, well, here it is. Spear Dagger, or excuse me, it's been a really long day. SNS Spear, I think, is probably the best combination with Spear overall right now, especially in Tier 1. Hit threshold that's required is lower in Tier 1, and I mean, you survive. You're a tank, and you're in there, and you can just deal a lot of AoE damage. It's good. It's really, really good, right? AoE damage is fantastic. The AoE farming is also really, really good. Everyone is in agreement pretty much that SNS Spear is one of the best options for Spear. Now, a lot of you guys have been asking about, what about Dagger? What about Greatsword? Let's start with Dagger. Dagger is a class. In my previous video, you might see a rotation that I provided. Is a class that deals incredible AoE damage. It might be the best AoE farmer in the game right now. It's crazy good and it's crazy fun. The problem with Dagger, though, is that you do not have Vital Force, and therefore you lack hit, which makes it borderline not viable for KR. For KR, it's a different meta in KR. Okay, please keep that in mind. In NA, it'll be way more viable because it is very clear as to who is running what. It's more clear compared to KR. Okay, it has a serious hit problem. If the hit problem goes away, it's very good. It's solid with damage. There's a lot of things that you can build into the kit. It can be incredibly strong. But hit is the big issue. So it feels awful right now in endgame KR. Mobbing feels fantastic because, again, big AoE damage. The rotation that I just showed you, it's essentially that, only you add either poison to it, which poison with Umbral and these things really enhance the raw damage of it, right? Or you add thunderclouds to it, which lowers the target's endurance, as well as giving you more AoE potential. And it's really fun. You're gonna see, like I said, I will link the previous my day one impressions in the link in the description below. Just fast forward it. I kind of go through a rotation, and it'll give you an idea as to what the rotation looks like. So that's the situation with Spear Dagger. Situation with Spear Greatsword. Spear Greatsword, generally speaking, a lot of people are thinking, okay, if Spear is going to be a damage dealing class, it looks like it's going to work with Greatsword. Why? Because Greatsword has Vital Force. It gives you hits. In endgame KR, that makes it more viable. From a playstyle perspective, you are essentially going to be a nuker bomber that can kind of brawl a little bit. And that's kind of the playstyle that you're going to be going for. That revolves around death from above, right here. Okay, that's an AoE fear, and it's pretty simple, guys. You AoE fear, the Queen Bellendir spear will make that a vacuum. The fear lands, you use devastating smash with 7th Greatsword, and you bomb people. It is one of the scariest potential engages that is in the game right now. It's incredibly strong, but that's what you are, right? Like, that is your goal, or that is your purpose on the battlefield by playing Spear Greatsword. Now, with Spear Greatsword, you have to go into endurance and the fortitude stat, and you have to use a different set. You're going endurance, right? And you have to be tanky enough to be able to be able to go in and perform that nuke, right? There's a new set in KR that is really good for that purpose. And that set is right here. That is not right there. That's the tier 1 one. This is the new tier 1 set. That is not that great. I don't know what they were thinking with it. Let me find this one here. Vanguard. Here it is. So this right here, for every 10 points of perception you have, you get 45 endurance, melee, ranged, and magic. That's the 2-piece passive. 4-piece passive, when your fortitude is over 50, your base weapon damage increases by 30. Your main weapon damage increases by 30. And the stats that come on it are pretty good. 2 of the pieces come with hit. Attack speed also comes on it. It's a pretty good set. We are currently thinking that is good. That is probably the go-to set for Greatsword Spear in the current tier 2 endgame, because it's going to give you enough sturdiness to perform your task. I have just gotten through putting together a bunch of builds, preliminary builds for these three classes, SNS, Greatsword, and Dagger, when it comes to the spear, when paired with spear. And I can tell you this right now, there are definitely ways to build even for Greatsword spear. Okay, there's a lot of endurance. Thankfully, the rune system is coming out, and we are able to build around that because it gives us extra stats. We also have a couple of new pieces that will allow us to get the fortitude, mainly from the spears. And I have confirmed with AGS that blue level 60 runes are going to be the max. Well, at least that's what I was told, unless, you know, they change it. So with that said, if we go through these builds here, if we go through the Greatsword builds, you're going to notice I got a lot of endurance here, guys. And to be honest, I have more endurance than this because currently quest log is not reflecting the mastery from both melee and ranged from this passive, along with other things, a lot of other things. They are not currently reflected in the stat sheet. So be aware if you do come to this website, depending on the time you come, they are working. I have talked to the developer / owner of the website. He is working on it, but chances are when you're looking at this in the next 8, 9, 10, 12 hours, the stats might be a little off. If they're off, it means that there are less stats, and just keep that in mind because I've built around those values because I know how many stat points fortitude gives and how much should be added to the right here. So like my build is good. My build numbers are good to go. These numbers right here, you might actually have more endurance or more hit or more whatever, right? By the way, spear does come with, I believe, like 80 additional hit from its mastery. So anyways, I have linked this build in my Discord. I thought I was talking to Twitch chef. It's like, I'm so sorry. It's been such a long day. Just come to my Discord. If you go to the guide section of my Discord, of the throne category, I have posted a link to my quest log, which is right here. Or you could just go to questlog.gg and search me up and look for this. I think you could just do it that way as well. Question about Expo Spear. What are my thoughts on Expo Spear, and what did that Expo Pro guy, the best Expo player in Korea, say about Expo Spear? He essentially said that the nuking potential, which is based off of death from above, where you death from above and then you spin to win. And he has a giant Cordy, by the way, which is the hands down the strongest weapon right now in KR. It's the latest arc boss weapon. That is obviously very strong in large scale PvP. It can nuke. Is it necessary? Not really, because the value of Dagger not only allows you to clear chunks of people faster, but it also obviously provides utility with stealth and all those other things. He wasn't like super impressed. He thought it wasn't great with Expo Spear. The only good thing about it was that single nuking play. Other than that, Expo Dagger is just better all around. That was his breakdown of it. That's pretty much it. I'm sure I'm forgetting some things here, and I apologize that this is like not really cut or edited that much. I apologize for not being super articulate with my words, but it has been a very long week and I'm completely fried. But I just really felt like it was important for me to get this updated impressions, updated review out to you guys, because Spear's about to drop and that's more important, right? So I'm going to be uploading this as soon as my editor is able to download this and send it to the YouTube, and I hope that helps. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in the next video.